Billiken fans, welcome back. It is Zach Miller. Peter Hale is back with us as well. It's the Midtown Madness Podcast. Before we get going, thank you so much for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, don't forget to comment down below. Love it when you guys comment. Love it when you have something to say. I got to do a better job of shouting you guys out on the pod. If you comment, next episode, we will, if it's something, we'll mention if you comment. And if you mention something interesting, we'll talk about it and mention your comment as well. So, again, thank you for interacting with us on all platforms. It's season 5 of the Midtown Madness Podcast. And, of course, it's brought to you by Two Men in a Garden. Two Men in a Garden is my absolute favorite salsa, not just local, favorite salsa, full stop. The best part about Two Men in a Garden, Pete, whether you're looking to absolve your taste buds of a bitter Billiken loss or celebrate a Billiken blowout, Two Men in a Garden, it's perfect for either occasion. Do you like it mild, medium, or hot? No matter your taste, Two Men in a Garden has you covered with salsa that's sure to elevate your post-game snacking. Head over to your local grocery store and get Two Men in a Garden, made fresh with simple ingredients and a ton of flavor. Visit them online, twomeninthegarden.com, to shop your favorite flavors and learn more about Kitchen Hub STL, of course. Don't forget to follow them on social media at Two Men Salsa on Instagram and Twitter for their latest updates. Oh, Pete, sweet Peter. Yeah, I think, man, I have no idea what to make of this Billiken basketball team. This Billiken basketball coaching staff, this Billiken athletics department, women's basketball, no idea what's going on there. But we're going to talk as much as possible about those things and try to get to the bottom, just as a couple of ball unknowers. But let's start about the coaches show this week. They pivoted due to Humphreys being closed. Obviously, there's a couple of discussions we can have about that, right? One being tangentially related to the Dave and Buster's watch party and it being out in the county, right? Away from campus. What do you think about having it at Westport Social? I know that I was told that attendance was up. I would have gone had I not had to do other things. But, I heard that attendance was better. I've heard that, students don't necessarily get to this event as much as they'd like. So I think they were pretty okay with moving it to Westport Social. What do you think about moving out to different parts of St. Louis County?
So when you say Humphreys is closed, it was just they have it on the night of the week where Humphreys is not open.
I guess they decided to close that Monday.
Oh, it's just that one. Okay.
I don't know. They do kind of like they will close randomly.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what their shtick was for that night.
I obviously you want to have it at the campus bar. You want to have it at Humphreys. Is my own take. I'm also, I don't know, maybe people may or may not know this. I have a strong city bias in general. I have a strong Midtown bias. I just feel like if you're going to do this thing, it should be very near campus, as close to campus as you can even have it. Maybe even on campus. Like, isn't there still an on-campus bar? Like,
Rosalita, or not Rosalita's. What was it? I don't remember what it was called.
It's changed like 84 times since I've been there. So I don't even know, but I would just like to see it as close to campus as possible personally. So as soon as I see Westport, to me, that's like, okay, I don't even care. I'm not going. So it doesn't matter. It's just like I put it west of 170 and I'm out. And I know that's not true of a lot of our fan base. So maybe I'm the exact wrong person to ask. To me, the other thing though, like the fact that that's a 21 and over venue, I think that kind of created some issues, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it created any issues per se. Like, again, I think with this 21 and over issue, it's not a like if you do it once, if it's going to stay at Westport Social, I think that becomes an issue. Because I think, it's a great chance, the coaches show, I guess, to get and especially if you're moving it out to the county, right? Like, a lot of the city fans, I would say that most of them aren't, they would be younger, maybe not parents, right? But if you're going
Mhm.
to have it out in the county, one of the advantages are you're reaching out to more families, right? I think.
Mhm.
Anyway, I know you're a little bit different in that you would, keep your family in the city proper, right? Um, but I think there tend to be more families out in the county, and if you get it out to the county where you can reach and have the next generation of fans be brought by their mom or their dad or whoever, and bring them to the restaurant and get up close and personal with the Billiken head coach, like I think that's huge. Those are people that are ready and willing to be captivated, even by a mediocre team. If you get to,
Sure.
hey, remember that one time we met the coach at Westport Social? Shit, I still remember the time Budweiser showed up and did a flick like a paper football tournament at the locker room in North County when I was like 12, like 10, 9.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
my mom just we happened to be there eating dinner, and like my mom played in the tournament. It was like that's the kind of stupid shit that sticks in kids' head. And of course, I think, you know, going to the restaurant, having dinner, and listening to Josh Shirts and getting to meet Josh Shirts would be a huge deal for uh, a sport loving kid. So that is disappointing. Again, I don't think it's something to, unless this becomes like a thing. I think then you're gonna have a discussion about, is Westport Social the right place?
Yeah.
Obviously, but I think, moving it out to the county per se. I think, look, like I think if you're gonna be slew for the Lou, you do gotta kind of embrace the entirety of the area,
Hmm.
and I think that helps. And like I said, I don't know if it does its job the best it can, being at a bar that's 21 plus, right?
Yeah, and I think you make a lot of good points there. I do, yeah, I do. I think a lot of, now that I especially have kids, but I do think a lot about ways to get younger fans engaged
Mm-hmm.
and interested and kind of hooked for life. That's one thing. So I hate to miss any opportunities there. The other point I'll add to all of this is I don't know if it's one of those things where I don't know what part of town Shirts lives in.
Mm-hmm.
But I know, like, for example, Xavier, a couple seasons, they had their coaches show at this bar on kind of like the far east side of town. And it wasn't near campus. It was probably 20 minutes away from Xavier's campus. And I think it's just because it was the closest place to where the coach at the time lived.
No.
And actually, I think it was the first year or two that Sean Miller was back just a couple seasons ago. And so they were just having it because it was convenient for him to get to on a weeknight. And so I think that's why they had it there. It just so happens that the coach who makes millions a year lives on the same side of town as a lot of people who donate and have season tickets to the program as well. So there's definitely a certain contingencies you have to satisfy in all of these things. And I know I certainly don't speak for everyone, fully aware of that. So just a couple more things to consider.
Yeah, and one of those, I also don't necessarily know the economics of a coach's show, right? Does
Yeah,
SLU pay the restaurant? Is it a trade issue, like a
right.
trade deal? Does the restaurant, you know, pay the school? I doubt that. I don't know. But again, I just so it could be a lot of things.
Right.
I
Good
don't even know
questions,
if you
though.
need to do, because if the restaurant is covering the broadcasting cost, right? If they're sponsoring it,
Yeah.
then do you need I mean, I guess you do need to have the coaches show somewhere. Could you not just have it in a studio? Um, obviously I would like them to be out in the community regardless. So definitely not a studio, but I mean, it's just a question I don't
It,
I
it,
don't
it,
have the answer to.
yeah, it seems I think of it kind of like a town hall, like a political
Yes.
like town hall where these seem to always have some kind of fan or general public component to them,
Yes.
so I don't know if a studio is the right vibe for it. But yeah, another fair question, I think.
I guess we will get into the most recent game first. We'll Tarantino it this time around. Um, 67-61 loss at George Washington on Saturday, the 25th. Pete, you were in attendance. I I think the GW announcer called ball game twice in the second half. Once with 16, I think it was a 16-point game with 12 minutes to go, or a 12-point game with 16 minutes to go.
Uh-huh.
One of the two. I don't know. Either way, it was crazy. But this one felt like it could have been a lot worse, and it felt like it was worse than the score indicated. Actually, you know what? It felt like it was that bad because honestly, I thought we should have won this game, even playing average basketball. Even beside the fact that our offense was anemic, just based on talent alone, we should have won this game.
So we were down 36 to 22, 14 points at halftime, and I saw Stu, a couple other people calling this possibly the worst half of the season for SLU, and that felt strong to me. Like to call it the worst half of the season. I went back to like that Wichita game. Like
That
that
was
was one where
oh God, I was that, and I was in attendance for that one.
yeah,
And you being in attendance and being hesitant to call it the worst half
right.
means a lot to me, I think.
Yeah, and I kind of I want to get into that in general because I my reaction to this game, Zach, is a lot more muted than I think a lot of what I saw. Like I would pull out my phone at media timeouts and start looking at Twitter and Discord and was noticing way, way, way more negativity than what I was feeling. And I was like checking that against my friends who were next to me, right? Because we had a good group. There were seven of us. My brother and his childhood friend who lives in DC. My brother drove up for Richmond from the game. They were a few sections over because they joined later, for the whole trip
You're
planning
telling me it
purpose.
wasn't sold out?
It was, believe it or
Oh,
not,
I don't
not
know.
sold out. As yeah, we certainly observed in that game. And then we had a row, five of us in a row. It was four friends from college. Actually, three of them I knew in high school as well. And
Chaminade, right? Huh?
that's
Oh
right,
yeah.
Zach. And then one straggler that we picked up at SLU. And so anyway, so the five of us were there, and I was kind of throughout the game. I'm like, so I'm seeing just the worst half of the season, inexcusable, embarrassing, that kind of stuff. And I'm like looking at these guys and looking at them. I'm kind of like, I, I don't like the score either. I don't like the way this game's going either. Obviously, I'm not thrilled or happy with this, but like it's a bit dramatic, everybody. Like I was very much in like a much more muted place. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that, Zach, that we can get into. In terms of calling game, I kind of was there with their announcer. I think there were several instances in the second half where I either thought to myself or I told one of my friends next to me that that kind of feels like it. That kind of feels like it. All right, maybe that's it. You know,
We're so scarred. We
we
have
we
gone through, we have taken so much abuse.
well, but I mean, I think that would be true of any sports fan watching.
I mean,
Like where you're kind of
I
like,
don't want to
it
turn into
feels
a
like this game is pretty much done. Like not mathematically final, as they might say in the analytical community, but
yeah.
it feels like it's pretty much done, and maybe it's a 98.5 or whatever chance. And so there were some plays like that. I'll give you one example. 6.5 minutes to go.
That is I would say that is where I thought it was done. And I'll
Jim
tell when we finish this game, I will tell you exactly what happened on
So
my end.
we're down 12. Jimerson makes a layup to cut it to 10. And then we take them all the way down to like 1 or 2 seconds left on the shot clock in the possession. And they call a ticky-tack foul on
Mhm.
Amari McCautry, who we thought came up with a turnover. And he had one guy to beat and all the momentum, all the direction. And he had what could have been a fast break at the other end, and they called a foul on him that we just couldn't believe. So instead of having a chance to score at the other end, they hit two free throws and they go back up 12, with 6 minutes to play. And
Mhm.
so that one there, and then over the next couple minutes, it kind of bounces between 10 and 13. So that play for me felt like a big swing because you go from possibly being down 8 with 6 minutes to go to being down 12, right? And yes, it kind of bounced up and down the next couple minutes, but we can get into some of the rest. That was one that stands out to me though, as one of the ones where I was kind of like, okay, that's it, setting my expectations.
Yeah, it did. I was muted at the end of that first half. I was just kind of like, I couldn't believe some of the shit this team did in that half and how
Yeah.
just, I mean, it was bad decision making. A lot of it, I think, stems from the discourse on Twitter, Discord
Yeah.
about in the previous game, even in the Richmond game, about missing shots, the Jimerson misses, the stuff that's fallen short all night. And I think watching that in this game happen again after people are clamoring for our guys to rest a
Yeah.
little bit in that GW game, seeing it again in this game just feels like, what are we doing? Why are we not resting these guys? It's clear they are struggling physically. I know there were a couple threes that got all the way in and should have dropped, including one from Brockhoff, I think, most from Swope. But I mean, it was frustrating because it felt like an extension of that Richmond game.
So we had what I thought were a lot of good looks in the first
Yeah,
half. And I'm going to go,
even though there was not a lot of good offense.
yeah. I mean, well, uh, that's arguable. I mean,
Okay.
because I think we did wind up with, so we're 2 of 14 from 3 in that
Mm-hmm.
half. And 4 of those, Zach,
Yeah.
rimmed, I mean, all the way in and out. And from where we were in like the 10th row, we had great seats,
Half
good a-
court,
good angle,
not a big deal.
not quite at half court, a little bit over, but we had really good seats, really good angle on everything. And these all 4 of these 3-pointers, I was confident were going in. And
Yeah.
I thought, and not just those 4, I thought we got some other good looks too. Those 4, you're right. Killian had one of them. Swope had 2, and I want to say McCautry had the
Yeah.
other. He
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
one that kind of bounced in and out. And you if all 4 of those go in, then all of a sudden we're 6 of 14 from 3 of the half, and that's not bad.
Yeah.
And it's a completely different game, right? Even if 2 of those go in, that makes the math way different the rest of the game in terms of catching up. So like that's one thing right there. That's a big equalizer that did not happen. Right. So I do want to put that out there that I think
Yeah.
we were getting looks that we wanted, going 9 of 29 from the field overall, pretty frustrating, but 2 of 14 from 3 was really killer. Amari McCautry, Zach, he went to the rim a couple times aggressively. One layup he missed, and I think Anya got the offensive rebound and put it back.
Yep.
And then another one he made. And then after that, he had at least 2 that I can clearly visualize, 2 where he had one, a wide open lane to the net, and he opted to pass it instead. And then another one where I thought he could have just beaten the guy off the dribble and didn't do it. And what I see with him, Zach, is a player who is a freshman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who is aware of the physical tools that he has, but he's overthinking things. And I thought a lot of our issues in the first half wasn't just him overthinking things, but everybody.
Everybody.
We were overpassing.
And
Like how
yes,
many
we're
times
gonna
did
get
we
to
have
that.
either a good look or a layup or whatever, and they just wanted to make one more pass, and it became a turnover. Like
I've got it.
I don't know how many. Like I think we only had 5 turnovers in the first half, 5 or 6, but they all came from like unnecessary overpassing, and it's just like,
Yeah.
take the first good shot, guys. Like, you had some good looks. So I think the things that you know people were talking about, effort, energy, bad offense, it was just like the combination of overthinking things,
Mm-hmm.
overpassing, and then not take. I think that's related to just not taking the best
Yeah.
look that you had on a possession. And then number 2, those 4 threes rimming out. I mean, if they aren't making those extra passes, unnecessary
Yeah.
passes, and if they're hitting those shots, we would have been up at halftime.
I agree.
As bad as you consider everything else.
We are going to get more into that, and I'm excited to, because I think it has so many components to what is going on with the overpassing.
Mhm.
Let's see. Um, you talked about the 3-pointers. The Billikens ended up 6 of 28 from 3. GW was only 4 of 19. The Billikens only turned it over 11 times. I think that just illustrates how much this game was there for the Billikens to win. and it just came down to I, I don't know.
Well, a lot of those turnovers, again, I didn't think were necessarily GW's.
Hmm.
It wasn't much pressure or anything they were doing. They did get into some passing lanes a little bit. They did get a decent amount of deflections as we were kind of overpassing, but a lot of it was our own, our own decision making. What are you saying?
It felt like we were LaSalle in this game.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
You know what
Yeah,
I'm talking about? Like
yeah,
LaSalle was yakety freaking sacks out there.
yeah.
And it felt like that in this game for us at times where it was just moving. Like I think there was almost a literal carbon copy of the ball going off one of the dude's faces and then being kicked out of bounds.
I cannot tell you how many times where there were little plays like that where
Yeah.
where like the 50-50 balls never went our way. There was some ill-timed calls,
Some of that
I
is
thought
luck,
from
and
the
I think some of
officiating.
that is,
Yeah,
you know,
sure. Some of it,
not
but
not putting your body on the line.
weird bounces and
Yep.
just all of the kind of luck stuff really was not going our way. And that can't that can't happen on a day where you're just not hitting shots. Two other things I wanted to touch on just before we broaden it out to the whole game from the first half. Swope did get that. He got 3 fouls. Shirts left him in with 2 fouls. He got absolutely hung out to dry on that third one, although I think he's just got to let that alley oop go and not
Hmm.
make the contact there. It was like two in a row. It's like,
And that was uh,
and they wound up with an and one on the other one. And it was like Swope. There are those things you just got to let go, man.
yeah.
So partially on Swope, partially on the other defenders who kind of hung him out to dry. The other thing, Slew did get out rebounded by 6 for the game, but I think GW was up by like 7 at half in rebounds. So it really was the first half that was the issue there. They got more offensive rebounds, especially during a stretch of the first half where they started to build that lead. And that was a real problem. But yeah, back to the turnovers, only 11 times for the game. I'll take that number. That's fine on the road. That's not a big deal. It's just frustrating how they happen, I think was
Yeah.
the issue.
For sure. Of course, a lot of the talk in the previous game was about the bench. So in this one, of course, the major discourse was again the bench and fatigue.
Hmm.
37 bench minutes in this one. Not a huge number, but definitely up from previous games, including getting Gibson Jimerson some much needed clock on the pine. It's really hard because during that game, I'm trying, like I tweeted out, I'm begging. I started typing up a tweet about begging shirts to, and I was like, sit Jimerson. I was like, wait, no, that's not what I'm trying to convey here,
Mhm.
because I don't think Jimerson is the reason he's playing bad. Like I don't, I, yes, does that make sense?
It does. But the way that I was kind of looking at it during the game is, yeah, he clearly looks exhausted, but he looks like a guy who needs a week or two off,
Yes,
not a shift or two during a game, because he still did play 37 minutes. I actually thought it was less than that.
I
It
did too.
felt like more than 3 minutes that he was on the bench.
Yeah, he
So
needed more.
that was kind of surprising, but and I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit in the notes, but
Hmm.
in terms of just Jimerson, he just looks worn down. And it's not just that he's playing high 30s to 40 minutes a game, Zach. It's the nature of his minutes, because I can tell you from row 10 in the Smith Center, they were just, it was like the defender had him on a leash. He was holding
Yeah,
his jersey so much. It's the grabbing, it's the arm bars, it's the tugging. They don't let him get free at all. They hound him. They absolutely chased him around. And this is, we see it all over. Whereas other players can kind of have their man sag off of them when they're out at the perimeter.
yeah.
I dare I say, you can even take a possession or two off every now and then if you're sneaky.
Mhm.
Jimerson cannot do that. He
You,
plays not just 40 minutes, but the hardest minutes of
I
anyone
know.
out there.
I really think the best way to get him shots is to just run him out to that elbow area beyond the 3 point arc, get Robbie down low, and just make sure Jimerson's man is the guy that's going to sag off,
Yeah.
that's going to double team. You have to space out everybody and let those two just work a 2-man game
Yes,
out there.
and let
Or
one of them
Jimerson's
get
got to
open.
be the guy on the other side, at the other elbow of the 3-point line. The
Oh,
free
I see.
throw, the
Yeah.
free throw line extended out. I'll be honest. You know what I mean? To find that over that skip pass.
Yep.
Um, I don't know how else. Like you can't get him open running off and expect him to shoot. I don't think he shoots a high volume doing that,
Well, no, and the
or a
other side.
high percentage. I'm sorry.
Right, I knew what you meant. The other issue here is all of his shots, at least until the one that went in, were short. You
Mm-hmm.
know, there's less arc on his shot in this game, not just the ones that are coming off of his high catch and release,
Those
which he
are
did.
always a little more liney.
Yeah, he did have a couple of those, but even his more conventional 3-point attempts were a little, the arc was a little bit low and they were all short. So I don't, to me, it's almost like he's trying to put a little less effort into each shot to kind of, preserve himself. I know that's not what he's trying to do, but it's kind of like what his body is
Yeah,
doing. So, how worried do we need to be on a long-term basis? I don't know, but he's got a Tuesday, Friday week with
that's
VCU.
so frustrating. That's
Yeah,
so
uh,
frustrating to
right.
go. I
So
mean, we're talking about this in the Richmond game.
yeah,
Like we're everybody is like you've got Dayton and VCU coming up. You have got to have Jimerson healthy and feeling strong for those two games. It is a Tuesday, Thursday, right after a Saturday. We are in the George Mason got their stacked their front loaded what do you call it? That real dense part of their schedule. We are now in that part of the schedule, and
yeah,
you need Jimerson to be rested. And I just
yeah.
I'm not asking for 10 minutes off, but god damn,
I know
it should have been done. And this will go. We'll go into a bigger like a bigger diatribe that I can go on about using the bench the entire way. Like you had a perfect opportunity going back to Santa Clara and Robbie's injury
hmm
to bring Killian Brockoff along, to bring Max Picard along, at see who's working those guys, see if either of those guys can handle it, and then you have a guy who's a quality replacement by now. You work Picard. Like I don't understand why you put Anya in Robbie's place. Like, what good does that serve if they don't play the same role, right? Or they could. I don't know. It's frustrating that to not bring out the bench, you now are in this spot where the hubris to think that you can play your three best players, the guys that give you 18 points a game, whatever, 40 minutes against this competition. Like you
hmm
can't do that. That's not this isn't. I don't know. It's frustrating.
So McCautry led the bench in minutes, 15 minutes,
He was fantastic. I thought.
6 points. He was fantastic, and that's with we talked about his three that rimmed out, but that's with leaving some on the table. I
Mm-hmm.
thought he recognized a mismatch on the first layup he took, which I even though he missed it, I thought was a great attempt, and we got the offensive rebound. But leaving those other two on the table kind of bummed me out. It was like, get out of your head, kid,
Mm-hmm.
just play. Um, Picard and Brokoff, speaking of them, they each played 7 minutes. I know you said you'd like to see that hit about 10 or so.
10 each. I'd love to see it hit 10 each. Or
Right,
20
right.
for Brockoff and in some capacity. I don't know.
He took three-pointers. He missed all three of them. He was close
And I
on like
like that.
they were
That's
good. They
the
were good
hubris I
shots.
like.
Yeah, I it
He
was one of those where like my buddy next to me goes, ah, he's really got to make that, because
yeah.
that's the one that sets the tone when you're not playing a lot of minutes. It's just if the defense is
Yeah.
sagging off of him, they're like letting him have it. You want to see him hit that one. I think that changes things. Picard was one of two. You
But
said the
Brockoff real quick. I like that he took the shot because we talked about it early. The amount of shots that were passed up that were good shots, I
Mhm.
like that out of him. That to me, like that's the kind of thing that you like to see when the offense is stagnant. You bring in a guy off the bench, he makes the cut because he's ready to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I love that Brockoff came off the bench and said, "You know what? It's my shot. I also can score. I can play basketball good too."
Mhm.
I'm gonna take my shots. So I
Yeah,
love that out of him.
I don't mind it at all. You know, they've got to do that stuff. Picard was one of two, but that miss, Zach,
Yeah.
from now this was the one from my angle, looked like a clear foul.
It did. Okay. I
And
from the
and
TV.
well, the replay they showed from under the basket, which is where the only two replay cameras in the gym were right under the baskets. So the replay they showed, and this was after we were screaming our heads off for a foul. Me particularly, I was going insane. I was like, that's got to be a foul. It was at a crucial juncture in our
Mhm.
comeback in the game. I thought it was a crucial swing, not calling that. He wanted the foul, obviously. But I think it was one of those where there was just enough defense shadowing him right there where he misjudged it
Yeah.
and missed it.
He didn't move as quick as he could have
It was
either, I thought.
probably right to give him a
Yeah.
no call there. So,
I thought he
uh,
was a little slow getting to the hoop.
yeah, yeah. Kellen Thames gave us some minutes here, Zach.
Yep.
Not as many as you'd like to see, though, right?
Yeah, no. He had two chances back to back to be impactful, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on the second part, but he airballs a three and then misses a one-handed alley oop. Or who
Airball,
missed the
he
one-handed
he
alley oop?
airballed the three. I'm trying to think. That must have been him on the alley oop,
I
right?
mean, I can't think of anybody else who would have the
Um,
the the balls to do that.
I'm forgetting. We did miss one. Wait, was it him? Was it McCautry? Anyway, yeah.
I
I
couldn't find any missed dunk on the game note, like the game flow or
oh,
whatever.
I see the
The
play-by-play. Yeah.
play-by-play. Yeah, I couldn't find a missed dunk anywhere. It has to be Thames, I
I
think.
think it had to
But
be
I
him.
thought that was in the first half, to be honest with you, and that's why I was
No,
confused. Okay.
no, it was in the first half. He only played a couple minutes in each half, right?
Yeah.
And I remember the airball three down in the opposite end from where we were sitting. So that must have been the first half. Or
Yeah. No, the air ball was in the second half.
that was sorry, that was the second half. Yes,
Yeah.
you're right.
Um, I thought that three would have been hugely impactful. And that alley oop would have just, I wish it would have come in the first half now that I'm thinking about it, because that
Mhm.
might have woken our asses up.
Yeah, I mean, again, people saying like this was one of the worst halves of the
I didn't
season.
think it was the worst half, but I thought we were like
I
just completely not like sharp.
I just thought like, wow, if this is the worst half of the season, it's a fine line between a competitive half of basketball and a disaster.
Yeah.
Because like
I
that,
mean, it is in
there
this
weren't
world,
many
in
things
the
that needed to
world we
change.
live in the, short form TikTok world we live in, sir.
Mhm.
I think there is a fine line between, I mean, I think there's people going on Discord, so and so sucks, so and so's awful. I looking for. I mean, it's just, and it's based on like, especially the bench, man. Those dudes get 5 minutes a game, and you're getting like pissed at
Yeah.
them. Like,
Well,
I don't get it, man.
I,
It's
I just I just know what I was seeing in the gym, and then I go on Discord and I see people like yelling at each other about who put this roster together, and I'm
I
like,
do want to know who put this roster
good
together. To be honest,
Lord, what conversation are we having in the first half of this game? It didn't make sense to me at all. I don't know. I just, but I mean, look, so getting back to bench management, right? Like you're
yeah,
saying he's relying too much on three players,
yeah,
Swope, Jimerson, Avila. Obviously, we know that. But did you, you seem to have some pull quotes from shirts that kind of
yeah.
bothered you.
So they talked. Did you read the Substack, the Stu article?
I haven't been able to yet.
So
Today was a,
essentially the bench torched the starters running as GW, right?
mhm.
And it's I'm just when you're throwing guys out there for 40 minutes, 35 minutes a game, I just don't think you're going to get the sharpness you're looking for, that you're
Mhm.
demanding from you know, from your offense, from your defense. I just, you say things like the team in practice was just not dialed into what we're doing. Attention to details and physicality. We couldn't keep below the point of possession. We weren't sharp against what they were trying to do defensively. There was nothing to give you confidence. Yeah, I mean, that bench is not playing every day. They're playing 5 minutes a game and practicing. Like, and to say that the main guys are not sharp, yeah, of course. I don't know
Hmm.
what you're expecting when you're running these guys freaking ragged, and not giving them any rest. And the thing that's frustrating is like it was said about the practice leading up to this game, and I just don't know how that mixed with the innumerable missed shots at Richmond, and then you know doesn't consider you or doesn't lead to some sort of consideration of the conclusion that you're running this team, into the like not into the ground, because I don't want to say that because I think this team has a lot of potential, but just run it like maybe you're burning the candle at both ends with these guys.
Yes, but I see the bench players come in and play, and we don't necessarily get better.
I don't think I mean,
You know,
I
like
don't know what, but
but
here's
to
the
me,
problem
when
with
you
that though. The problem with that is like, you're, you're bringing in the bench guys. This isn't the fucking NBA. You're not, both teams aren't cooperatively deciding this is when we're going to play our 5-man bench. And then we're just going to take it down to the fourth quarter and let the starters roll. Like, you stagger your bench, man. You can't put Picard, McCautry, and Brockhoff all in. Now you've got three underclassmen in the game combined with who? Jimerson and Johnson, or no, probably it would probably be Jimerson and I just it just seems like, yeah, of course, when you have three underclassmen in there at one time, you're going to have issues. And then to judge their performance based on them playing with everybody but the starters seems a little bit short-sighted.
so in terms of just like what I'm seeing, like you could see the tired legs from Jimerson, and Avila looked to be kind of limping a little bit
Yeah.
again
Well,
at the
he
start of
tweaked
the game.
he tweaked a couple of people tweeted out that he looked like, and I saw it too. He looked like he tweaked his ankle again
So
early.
he was limping a little early. It seemed to go away as the game went on. Like he was running a little more normally. So those two were the only two where I thought they looked tired. They looked
Yeah.
like they needed subs kind of thing. But like everybody else,
Oh,
Swope would have been fine. Johnson, if not for foul trouble, Johnson was fine. Anya was fine in terms of
Anya
fatigue.
was. Oh, well, okay.
In terms
Uh,
of fatigue, I'm not
nah,
talking
nah.
about like form. I'm just saying like
Yeah.
their physicality looked
I,
fine. Like they
I
could have gone
just
30
think you
plus
can
minutes apiece
bring
and it was
more intensity over the game if you give a little leeway to your bench. Like, again, this is the same conversation that Bonaventure fans are hemming and hawing at Mark Schmidt over. You replace IMDT with ERTZ, it's the same damn conversation.
Mhm.
I mean, they're getting pissy with like, because again, I think Shirts has fallen in love with his first team and just has not brought along the bench. Like, the bench should be brought
Yeah, but
along.
he practices with them every day, you know, like he's seeing what they're doing and not doing. And like the offense runs through Robbie. So like you just kind of you need him out there. We give up a
That's
lot when
insane
he's not
then.
on the floor.
Like, if you can't,
Zach, I understand, but like we're in a position where like we were one of the top teams in conference you know, a week ago. We're in a position where we can win games now, set ourselves up for a first week bye, and he's decided like these are the guys who can do that, and I don't disagree with him. Like
but what
if
happens when
I'm
you
like
get to that
we need to
first
bring the
week
freshmen
by?
along, like yeah, fine, we need to bring the freshmen along, but we can win games right now.
But if we win games, get there in the first round by, great. And Jimerson's, hobbling through the game. Like, what's the point? Like, you're gonna need their presence in that tournament. You're gonna need the bench. Like, I just don't understand. I don't get it. I think it's I don't know.
Look,
It's
in an ideal world, yes, but you had a player leave. You had a player who's mysteriously limited by something we don't yet understand. You
Have
had
we
a
tried
player.
calling Dr. House?
You had a player blow out his knee and is out for the season. You had a player roll his ankle and miss 6 weeks
which
of
would have been a
preseason
great time.
practice.
Which would have been a great time to bring along Brockhoff in that role. By the way, again, there's so much stuff that would have led to bringing along the freshman in the non-conference, and it just never happened.
There's a different calculation when you've got a first year coach who's like getting to know everything at once, along with the school, the program, everything all at once. If that's the kind of thing that happens in Schertz's fifth year and he's got more continuity, I think a different decision's made. But at the time, he goes, "Well, I guess I'm going to give Kalu some run there." And was that the right decision? No, I think you probably could have given Brokoff more time there, or split it. I'm sure they did split it to some degree, but I don't know how different that looks now, given all of the other injuries, given all of the other bad breaks they've had. I don't think it. I think his hands are just too tied right here. I just like if we're going to be playing those bench guys, you just have to be willing to concede a lot of a lot more wins than we would otherwise.
Yeah, I worry about this team down the stretch, and of course, we're now heading into a gauntlet of a week,
Mhm.
and I don't know. I don't think this team um is ready for either of these games.
I
So
like the young guys, but they're not going to beat Dayton or VCU. I can
no,
tell you that
but
much.
but they are going to, we need them to again contribute. I'm not saying they're going to beat anybody. I've never said that. Like you need it's a team that you need the team helps you win like regardless. Like I just don't understand how we can't find 10 minutes per bench guy. I
The,
don't
the
get it.
the the problem, Zach, is that we've got our 1 to 5. They're tired, they're banged up, right? What this team lost was that 6 to 9, the 6 to 8, 6 to 9 range. Those guys are either out for the year, gone, or severely limited or whatever, right? So those immediate subs are the ones who are gone. So the guys that we're now talking about
So are
need
you
more
including
run
AJ Casey in that?
were the guys who are supposed to be, yeah, AJ Casey, right? 6 to 9. Hughes, Casey, Dotzler, and Thames.
Okay.
Those are the guys that we thought were 6 to 9, and they're all basically gone, like either unplayable or physically not there. So then the guys that were actually are playing and having to put into these roles are the ones that we thought were 10, 11, 12, and 13. So they've had to move up a tier in such as, in terms of what they are. They're not like one of them we thought was going to redshirt. The other guys we were going to play in more limited minutes, right? So he's having to make the decision not of whether I'm putting in my sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth guy, but if I'm putting in 10, 11, 12, and 13.
Yeah.
Those are the guys we're playing. And that's not a normal rotation. That's not a normal bench. We lost the immediate backups. That's the problem we're dealing with. We're trading experience, and we're trading a lot to get to those guys. I just don't think they are in a position to win us basketball games right now.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think again, I think I think they have potential to, come into a game and affect it positively. And I think I would rather take the risk of putting them in the game than
Mhm.
playing our guys for 35, 40 minutes. That's where I stand. And I mean, you make a compelling case. I'm not, you very well are right. It's just, I think two ways to look at it. And neither way is wrong or right. It's just a way to approach it. Robbie Avila struggled with Castro in this one.
Ugh.
Not, not his best game. And yeah, it was frustrating to see him just not, again, get on that low block because it seems like he gets whatever the hell he wants when he does.
This was the matchup I was worried about coming into this game. 13, 4, and 4 with 3 steals. Not a terrible line, but Castro, taller, longer, more athletic five-man for GW, made him look overmatched. You're right. He finished with 21 and 9 with 2 blocks. really effective on that lob play. He looked like Obi Toppin at times out there, like my buddy next to me said. It was a rough matchup. I knew it would be, Zach. I knew it
Yeah.
would be. Even before even if I didn't see him, twist or tweak his ankle or whatever early in the game. I just knew this one was kind of coming. I was more worried about like, okay, let's just not let the two top guys beat us, right? Drumgoole and Buchanan have been leading them in scoring this season, and they combined for 10 points. They didn't really do anything. I think Buchanan's still limited. Drumgoole, we didn't let him get any looks from three. Christian Jones, guy with kind of the really funky release on his shot, had 16. He hit some crucial shots.
I would tell you I'd know who that is, but the broadcast was so shitty I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't have to deal with that. It sounded like it was an issue. But yeah, back to Castro. I mean that. So we kind of, uh, not that you concede any matchup necessarily, but I knew that was going to be the guy. If I were a betting man, that's the one I would have picked to have the good game. And I think we did fine mostly against their perimeter players in terms of limiting their production. But yeah, he was just he had the kind of game that Duron Holmes has had against us in the past, that Obi Toppin has had against us in the past. If you look at the lines they put up in our most recent Dayton games, that's the kind of game that he had. And yeah, hard to watch. It's frustrating. And when Avila wasn't on him, he was still feasting. Just what can you say? That they had that one. We just needed to do the other stuff better.
Um, GW, you mentioned Drumgoole and Buchanan. 9 fouls the entire game. Pete, you had an issue with this.
Yeah, I did. I mean, they had three in the first half. They had three pretty late into the second half. Fouls were 8-3. And they wound up after calling a complete phantom foul on Slew. I think that was our eighth foul. They called one down at the other end where Avila he wound up missing a layup and they called a foul. It was not a foul, right? So it was a bad makeup on the other end that got all the fans around us worked up. And it was like, well, it was a clear, stupid makeup call that didn't need to happen. But I guess my point is 9 fouls the entire game.
Yeah.
You really guys like 9 fouls. Like being in the arena, calling 17 on us and 9 on them. There wasn't that much of a disparity in the physicality, right? Like there were some clear fouls. Swope's fouls, as much as I didn't want them to happen, were fouls, right? I don't have an issue with like the calls themselves so much as like the disparity in some of the non-calls for
Yeah.
GW. They let a lot go, like they let a lot of layups be contested. I actually thought a lot of the layups that GW made, we did contest pretty well. Like I think there was a stretch in the first half where we didn't, but a lot of them they made some tough layups. They made some teardrops and finger rolls and things like that were contested by one or two guys. So some bad luck there, but they did let contact go on a lot of these things.
The color commentator on the broadcast who sounded like Harvey Firestein from Independence Day. Oh
Oh,
my God. Oh my God.
I love Harvey Firestein's voice.
Yeah. Yeah, he sounded like Brooklyn Harvey Firestein.
Interesting.
Uh he said GW was getting the calls because they were the better team in the game,
Oh,
like they were playing better basketball.
I mean,
Which by the way, hold on. Hey, that's a dopey ass thing to say, and I disagree with him. But
mhm,
also, I do feel like Slew wasn't forcing the issue enough. Like the Slew was much more passive against the GW defense, whereas
mhm.
GW was more aggressive against our defense. So
I think
like
that's fair.
I
Yeah.
think I thought Slew just like because GW was going to us, we weren't getting the fouls.
Yeah, so I don't disagree with that completely, and the fact that we had more fouls than them, yeah, I'm fine with. I think that's correct. I don't think we had double, right? Like
No, no.
that's where my issue is. Is like, we didn't have two-thirds of the fouls in this game, and that's what wound up being the issue. So yeah, I get it, right? Like there was a definite stretch in the first half where they had the crowd into it, they had the momentum, they had Slew on their heels, and that's where those things kind of add up. And I totally understand that. But throughout the course of the game is where I disagree with it. When they've got three, I think there was they didn't get their fourth foul in the second half until something like 5, 6, 7 minutes, somewhere in that area left in the game, and that was shameful to me. I just didn't understand it. Um, but yeah, we got to take the action to them. I think you're right. And one of those guys, Kobe Johnson, Zach, finished with 11 on 5 of 6 shooting. He's just not aggressive in his, looking to score throughout the course of the game. I thought he was good overall, and we needed his defense, clearly. But he did again, like McCautry, he had some opportunities to force the action at the basket, and just didn't.
Yeah, Kalu Anya was another one of those guys. Ended up with 6, 6, and 4. Made a couple of bad plays and one what the fuck play.
Mhm.
And that what the fuck play was, you know, he was, let's see, he was what? What happened was Anya drove the ball. I believe it was some of the best ball movement in a
Mhm.
possession that we had in that first half. And he gets within a foot of the rim
Mhm.
and dishes it to somebody at the 3 point line who's covered.
Mhm.
And I think that's symptomatic. And this is the hill I will die on. I won't die on the bench hill, but I will die on the hill that the reliance of the three players to score.
Mhm.
Swope, Avila, Jimerson. I think this is all the Kobe not taking chances. Um, McCautry backing off, Anya passing. The only person I thought in this one didn't give a shit was Brockhoff, and I loved it. But I think there's so much talk about Avila, Jimerson, Swope being those go-to guys that I don't know if those guys, the rest of the team, feels comfortable or empowered to go to the hoop and make things happen when things aren't going well. The
Yeah, I
plan is to just keep trying to force it into our best guys.
I think the one he passed up, our whole row just was like, just shoot, like put it in, just like lay that in. What are you doing?
You were like, it's like you watching a Blues power play.
Yeah. Yeah, pass, turnover. Uh,
Shoo, shoo.
we were flummoxed by that as well. And I don't think it was just him though. Like,
Yeah, no,
we
it was
mentioned Johnson,
everybody.
we mentioned Picasso. There were a lot of guys who you were just like, why aren't you taking a layup right here? Like, just take the layup. And I think that, I would do after those. I would look over at Shirts and he was smacking his forehead, shaking his head. I don't think he's telling them get it to one of these three guys.
Yeah,
I,
no.
I think there's like a mental thing where they haven't played together enough in this system to really like trust themselves, if that makes sense. It's like,
Or believe they're the right. I think I mean, yeah, trust themselves. Maybe they don't think they're the right player to take the shot.
Mhm.
I don't know. I had no idea. It's insane. It's frustrating. Um,
Yeah.
like we said earlier, I called ball game. I think at the under seven, a little bit after the under seven. I actually hopped on the bike to work out because I
Mhm.
had to get a ride in, and yeah, you can see on my heart rate data exactly when we cut the lead to three, and then when
Mhm.
Swope pulled up for the three for the tie, you can see the spikes. I popped up to like 152 in that moment.
That was one where I kind of had a bad feeling on that. His step back, you can tell when he's in rhythm.
Yes.
And this one,
Oh
I
yeah.
don't he seemed to not know. So he had the tallest player on the floor guarding him. He had Castro guarding him. And so he needed that step back to get that separation, but he took like an extra half step back.
Yeah.
Like I don't think he quite knew where he was on the floor. And he wanted to make sure he was behind the 3 point line. So that extra little half step there, number one, everyone around us on the GW fans was going, travel, travel. He
Yeah.
walked. Like when he did that, whether he did or not, I don't know. It looked a little weird, but he takes the shot, misses the shot. We all kind of, then people start second guessing. Well, he didn't exactly. It was we had enough time left to just go make a layup,
Do
and
the
and
Billikens need a three here?
right. Well, that's kind of that. Actually, that was an
Yeah.
instance where, like, yeah, we were down three, and him getting an open three, you're fine with, but he had the defender on skates, and
Yeah.
if he had just taken it to the rim, I think he had an easy two.
Let's talk about that. I like what you just said there. He had the defender on skate. If he would have just taken it to the rim, I feel like this is a thing that drives me nuts every game about Swope. Is
Hmm.
it? I am starting to ask whether he can make a layup because he
He,
doesn't do it. Like I'm not even saying he gets to the rim and then gets stuffed. I think the last time he did it was in non-conference. I think that's the last time he did it. And I haven't seen him try to put a ball in that wasn't kind of that turnaround jumper from like 2 feet out.
mhm.
Or he took a lot of runners in this game, which was infuriating because I've never seen him make a runner ever.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, if not an easy layup, he would have had the ability to,
yeah,
dump the ball to whoever was left alone after, the help came over. So
if we were cutting.
that miss, it looks like was at 11 seconds left.
Yeah,
One of the things, Zach, that I didn't put in the notes and kind of forgot was what was killing me at the end was clock management, right?
yeah,
Because we are so at 2:31. We Avila hits a layup, nice layup by the way, off an Anya pass. 2:31, we hit that right, and then go down to the other end and defend them straight up. But they take 25 seconds off the shot clock. They turn it over. Avila comes up with a steal, and then we go down to the other end and Kobe Johnson hits the three, but I mean, he hit the three after the whole shot clock had worn down. So by the time he hits that, it's a minute and a half left, right? So on those two possessions, you get the turnover, you get the three, and that brings you from 9 down to 6. But you've wasted not wasted, but you've spent a whole minute of game clock to do that, right? You turn 9 into 6, but you turn 2.5 minutes into 1.5 minutes. And 1.5 minutes is a lot harder to make up 6 points than if you're closer to 2 minutes. You're on mute before you come up with a full response, Zach, there.
especially when you're not Houston.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So okay, so now we're down to a minute and a half left, right? And we sub out Anya, we put in Picard, right move. There's a 30-second timeout that they took.
What?
Um,
Never mind. Go ahead.
okay,
Sorry.
during that timeout, I'm going through the play-by-play now.
Yeah.
Sorry if it's not in
No,
perfect
you're
order.
good.
So then now George Washington inbounds the ball and they burn 20 full seconds before missing that three. Kobe Johnson gets the rebound. And then this is the one where, we now 11 seconds later is when Picard misses that layup.
Yeah.
And we wanted the foul. It eventually didn't look like he was fouled. They gave the block to Castro. Um, and and then yet again, GW has the ball but turns it over just a few seconds later. So by the time we get it to Jimerson to hit that three, another 13 seconds have burned. And so we're down to 38 seconds. And so Zach, I guess this is a long way of just like going through these 2 minutes ago. Like that's not, that's of some big plays and they all went our way, but it took a lot of clock to do that. So now by the time we're actually down three, after Jimerson hits that three, there's 38 seconds left in the game. And it's just, I don't know.
Not great, Bob.
No, it's not like in football, right, where you want to burn clock so that you're gonna get that one field goal attempt or that one more play. It's not like that. You gotta make the most of the seconds you have, especially when you've been down by 8 to 15 points the entire game.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
yeah, I do scratch my head a little bit at the clock management, even if things were going our way more often than not in those last couple minutes.
um, Pete, let's talk about your experience at the Smith Center in our nation's capital.
Yeah, I try to put up some Instagram stories, Zach, to give
Where
people a little bit of flavor there.
I need to know what'd you eat before the game? You looked like
Oh,
you tweeted at Bovair.
so that was yeah, that was in the morning. We went to it's funny. He had an Instagram story up the day before. I guess he had gotten breakfast there. And so we wound up going there. I didn't realize it was going to be the same spot. We wound up going there. Um on Saturday morning. And so I tweeted at him almost, I was like, hey, are we doing this right? Because I knew he had just been there. And then he got back at us and with what to order. Don't even look at the menu, just get this. Fantastic, by the way. Good spot. That was oh God, what was the Call Your Mother was the
Yeah.
name of it's like a bagel shop. There's a few of them, but there's one near GW, a couple blocks north of campus. So we ate there in the morning. We toured some monuments, stuff like that. We got lunch at a food hall near GW's campus, or basically on the edge of campus, right before the game. Got a gyro there. We all went to the Greek place and made our way over to the arena early. It looks from the outside very much like a museum, right? It looks like it's like got, you know, big concrete and glass facade, very clean looking. I want to say they did like a $19 million renovation about 5 years ago, shortly after when the Jumbotron fell, on
Ah,
the floor.
yes, class.
But
Did you know the
uh,
Washington Castles play there? Have I dealt this before?
you
World
haven't talked
team
about this.
tennis.
No,
Oh
I didn't
yeah,
know that.
so yeah, the World Team Tennis, which invented by you'll just Google it, man. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
tell you about World Team Tennis, but yeah, the one of the franchises plays their matches there.
got it. Okay.
So they
So
bring in
so
a sport court and yeah, whole
So
spiel.
you enter on what is like, if you look at the Smith Center, they've kind of got the row. Um, it's like it's behind like the first 10 rows of the lower level, right? So
Yeah.
that's the level that you enter on. So there's not a concourse at all on that level. There's empty space in the four corners, and then you have to go down to the lower level, like basically the floor level, to get to the concession stand or anything like that. And the stairwells kind of go like crisscross where the players go up and down too. So that was kind of weird. So I ran into Brian Kunderman.
Mm,
He was,
BK.
yeah, he was just walking out of a door right as I was like, we had just grabbed a beer and we're ready to head back upstairs. So it's a very, there's not a lot of room. Like there aren't actual concourses in there, but the inside, the seating area is really nice. The seats are comfortable. It's a really clean looking place. Like it's nice, like white walls. It's got some windows, dark blue seats, and like just really, I liked the atmosphere. I like the vibe. The seats are really good. They're not far back from the action at all. I think it seats about 5,500 if I remember correctly. What was attendance even announced at for this game? I meant to look, but
I'll
um
look it up.
yeah,
But
so
you bought
attendance was 2,500, so a little under half full. I guess that's right. I think maybe they're being a little generous. But one of the things I did there, Zach, yeah, you're right. I bought a Dribblin' George's Lager
Dribble and
by
George.
DC Brow, which is a local brewery in DC, that's been around for about 15 years now. And the proceeds of every one of those actually go to George Washington's NIL fund. So do I feel like a traitor for donating to their NIL fund? Not really. I wanted to have, the beer that I can only get at a
Yeah.
GW game, right? And
I
I
did. I
also
got
kind
that
of,
Cincy Light when I visited you.
that's right, the one that goes to the
Yep.
Bearcats. But so this one, yeah, it's just a 4% lager. It's great. It's nice. It's better than Bud Light or whatever. So, good beer. And I was just kind of, I knew it would kind of start some people wondering why SLU doesn't have a thing like that, because there are several A10 schools that do.
Yeah.
And it comes up, Zach. I think we have that agreement with Anheuser-Busch that kind of prevents us from doing anything with
So
other
why doesn't
breweries.
Anheuser-Busch, I don't know, just freaking who cares? Like, just turn, I don't know, what do we got? What are they brewing over there? Just that we can't get here. Michelob regular? Just get regular Michelob. Turn it into Billiken Ale or some shit.
Most of those kind of like labeled exclusively for whatever. Like if all around town, I don't know if it's this way now, but there used to be like a Schlafly tap that was like exclusive to the Crow's Nest, the Crow's Nest Brown Ale, or
Yeah.
whatever bar it was, and it's just the same brown ale labeled
Yeah.
differently for every restaurant, right? It's the same thing. So, yeah, I don't know why we can't do that with AB. I know they're a $60 billion a year international conglomerate that sells in 150 countries, but like
Have you seen
I
our
gotta think
endowment?
the local one is can do some things under the radar, right?
Yeah.
So
It,
anyway, Oh, go ahead.
No, I just think it's outrageous. I think we should absolutely have a Billiken brew.
Yeah.
And it should happen sooner rather than later. Whether it's somebody talking with AB, get
Hmm.
that squared away, I don't know, but figure it out.
Yeah.
It's law. I mean, you're looking for a way to elevate your concessions. I think that's 1A
Right.
among food. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Overall, the arena, I think if it were full, it would have been difficult to get a beer or anything like that. There's
kind of
only a
like the
couple of
Loyola.
concession stands. Yeah, it's small, but it's like self-scan checkout kind of
Oh yeah,
thing.
yeah,
In terms of game day production, they've got the band, the cheerleaders, the dance team, everything. They don't have an in-house MC. Everything was done off the PA guy.
yeah.
And so he
Their
did all
band
that.
is so far back.
They are kind of up there. And there are some students that kind of are scattered up there, but then there's another student section right in the middle of the court that they call George's Army. The other weird thing when you buy tickets for GW on that side, like on the side of the benches, like where the players' families and stuff sit and where our donors were, like behind the bench, we were up opposite them. But you cannot buy tickets on that side of the arena at all, even up in the 200s. And the 200s over there were empty, like completely empty. The 200s behind us go up like way higher on this side. So like I don't know how many rows are on the other side, like 15, but it was probably like 25 rows behind us, like on our side of the 200s. So even though the gym's like kind of rectangular, it's not like there's more seating on one side than the other. And I noticed that on the ends too. The band is on a shorter end. There's more upper deck seats on the other end, probably like six more rows. So it's not perfectly symmetrical floor. But anyway, I like the atmosphere. Everybody was like, we didn't have one fan say a word to any of us. They were all like, kind of, it was very much not like Dayton,
Yeah.
where they'll threaten physical violence.
Well, that's just the Arch Baron Cup.
Yeah, that's true. But like, it was like seeing a game at Richmond where everybody's like super polite and I don't know. I thought it was a good experience. I'm always glad to get another A10 gym under my belt.
Yeah, they were nice enough to put you on the Jumbotron.
I did kind of have to be a little assertive there myself to be seen. I ruined the little group shot for the AE Pie reunion in front of us, but that's all right.
Yeah, you know what? We got to clip that picture and post it for home field because you were showing off your home field gear.
I was. It said Billikens big and bold,
It
and
was beautiful. I thought
yeah.
it looked great. It
Mhm.
was the the Runnin' Billikens sweatshirt, the brand new
Yeah,
one from their new collection. You got the whole collection.
I did. Blue's really my color too. So
Yeah.
that it's a gorgeous shade
It
of blue,
really
that one.
it goes well with your eyes
Yep,
with
yep.
the the silver fox beard you're trying to cultivate there.
That's right. That's right.
Um let's back up then on this week. Jesus, we've been at this almost an hour and we are just getting to the LaSalle game, Pete. 64-52 win against LaSalle on Wednesday the 22nd. The theme night was the Billiken Rope hat. $10 again, another scenario where for $10 this is great. I
Yeah,
It might be one of my new favorite hats. I've been wearing it since I got it for
yeah.
the most part. I don't love it forward. It's not the best look on me forward. I think
Mm.
we can all agree with that.
Yeah,
But
wrong face shape for
you
for
know,
that. But yeah,
well,
yeah, it's cool.
yeah. It's an all right hat. I like it. All the rich dads that are like 45
The
love
rope hat.
the peak and the
Oh
rope
yeah,
hat.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
that yeah, it's that it's like a melon or you've got I don't know, branded bills, whatever, all of
Yeah.
those niche hat companies. It's hard to stick a narrative on this one.
Yeah, it was a weird, ugly, very unique game, Zach. SLU was terrible in the first 12 minutes. The offense had no motion to it. They were making bad passes. They really seemed to be struggling with LaSalle's athleticism at the other end. I mean, at one point, it seemed like Schertz kind of emptied his bench just to find a spark because nothing was clicking.
Yeah, no, it really wasn't. And it was great to see him empty the bench. I think we all understand how much that was, that meant to me. Uh, they
Yeah.
finished the half though on an 18-4 run. When I said it in the recap of this GW game, is I really do think that you know when you can bring one guy in off the bench, the offense is stagnant. Get that guy moving. Again,
Yeah.
these are guys that they're not necessarily game planning for. Let them go out there and do something. Like I don't give me all three of the guys at once. I
Hmm.
want to see I want to see Brockhoff in the game with everybody but Avila. I want to see Pakar in there with everybody but Anya, right? I
Hmm.
want to see who am I missing? McCautry. I want to see McCautry in there with everybody but Joan or Johnson.
Right.
You know, I want to see the way these guys can fit into that starters group.
Yeah, I think that's how I would roll them out as well. Just play them with the top unit, just like when you're getting one guy a couple minutes. That's the way I would do it. So they end with that big run. Energy, effort picked up. Decision making was way better. They just looked like a different team. Second half opens up, Zach, and neither team could really make shots, but LaSalle really could not make anything. They started out the game overall 8 of
They were
15.
horrible.
They were 4 of 34 after that, and then they finished 10 of 16, got hot when it was too late. But at one point in the middle of this game, they missed 20 straight field goal attempts.
They didn't
Uh,
even have the worst miss in this stretch. That honor
no,
goes to McCautry, who
that's
had
right.
maybe it was probably the most jolly shot I've ever seen that
Yeah,
wasn't made by a guy named Jolly.
that's right. That's right. And it wasn't just their shooting, though, Zach. That was an issue for LaSalle.
No, it wasn't. For as bad as they were at shooting, I mentioned it a little bit in the recap of the GW game. They had some of the dumbest ass turnovers I've ever seen in my life. One of them was around 15 minutes to play in the second. Billikens turned the ball over. Lally tosses a pass to McKeithen, who was not expecting it, hits McKeithen in his hands and head, and then hit Jaleel White's foot, goes into the first row. Robbie Avila turns around, hits a three, and says, "Did I do that?
High comedy.
Did I
High
go too
comedy.
far for that joke?"
No, not far enough.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That being said, the Kalu Anya rebound out of nowhere, and then Slew's already running back on defense was maybe the worst. That goes up with the McCautry air ball for some jolly shit.
Yeah, because he had no one to give the ball to, right? So
Nobody.
like the thing was there were four backs turned. And I understand, having been a manager when Brad Soderberg was there, I understand coaches who want to send their guys back and not crash the offensive glass because they're obsessed with getting set for defense. Majerus did it a lot too. But you do have to at least have somebody recognizing those kind of fluky plays that do wind up being offensive
Yeah.
rebounds, right? Nobody gets zero offensive rebounds, right? Everybody gets some, even if you're not trying. Things just kind of go your way, which, by the way, was another issue in that George Washington game. They got some weird bounces, but yeah, that was just an unfortunate little play there. But Slew basically over the stretch just kind of slowly expanded that lead, especially as we got into the middle of the second half. And I say middle because Slew really couldn't score for the first several minutes of this half. It's just crazy that neither team seemed to want
Yeah.
to run away with this. But
And
Slew,
well, as much as that GW game, we talked about how there were so many opportunities to stay in that game, to be
mhm.
in the more of the driver's role of that game. In this one, it felt like we missed major opportunities to really blow the doors off this team and really get our guys a little less time out there.
That's the problem, right? Because if this is a 21 point game when we get to the 504 mark, right? And if this is a 21 point game at 1504, like it could have been, or 1204 or something like that, then you get to a scenario where you really can sit Jimerson and some of these guys, like maybe not all at the same time, but you can really get them some true rest. instead of just leaving them out there where everybody's missing shot. Until then, until that 504 mark, this just felt like a game where SLU was going to hold them closer to 40 because LaSalle couldn't score at all. This is really the point where they kind of turn it on and they extend the game with timeouts. They hit some shots. SLU got sloppy on the offensive end and turned it over a few times. So it was one of those games where we end up winning by 12. But had they set the tone earlier in the second half, it could have been different.
Yeah, I think again we talked about shot making in that the GW game. Again, it was ugly in this one as well. LaSalle, we'll start with LaSalle before we get to our Billikens.
Hmm
22 of 65 from the field, maybe stop shooting. 2 of 17 from three. This was the worst shooting percentage from the field and from three that they've had all season. Um, let's see. Well, I got a little more stats on that in a bit. The Billikens, however, weren't much better.
25 of 59 overall, 7 of 33 from three. When you look at the last three games, I think Stu added it up and said we're shooting 21% from three.
Yeah,
In the last three games, that's not ideal
that is
to be losing a
concerning.
shot there. Yeah. Gibson Jimerson went 1 of 9 from three, 3 of 13 overall for 11 points. So kind of, he just kind of this game you were hoping he'd bounce back at George Washington, but unfortunately, it was a continuation of that.
No, yeah, it was his one 3-point basket was a screen for Robbie. Swope finds Robbie. Double team comes, kick out to Jim for straightaway three.
Hmm
That sounds like a good idea that we should do more.
Yeah.
You get Robbie the double team with a 2-man game with Jim. He got a bucket at the rim right after that. But I thought the best moment for him came right after that when Gibson faked a handoff from Robbie at the 3-point line, took his own man with him, then curls back to screen Etienne, who was guarding Robbie. He took both defenders. Robbie had a clear 20-foot path to the rim. The whole team was involved in that play, though. I thought Warlick, Swope, and Thames all spaced really well
Yep.
to eliminate any help defense. Again, probably my favorite moment of the game, if not the best, I thought.
Yep. And then, like you said, Schertz on the postgame show praised his rebounding, which again was good in that George
7.
Washington game. Yeah, he had 7 in each of the last two games. So Schertz talks about the invisible plays, and I think Jimerson makes a lot of them, even though, as you and I can see, he's gassed out there.
Yeah.
So he does deserve credit for that.
We haven't even discussed the Billiken rebounding effort in this one, Pete. Uh, and we need to qualify because LaSalle isn't exactly a board monster. They're average around 35 per game in A10 play, and that's what they got in this one.
Mhm. Yeah, but I think the bigger number here is 42 Billiken boards, including 11 on the offensive glass. That's their most in conference so far. It's also the second most allowed by LaSalle in conference after UMass. So yeah, Zach, I mean, I thought maybe we were the worst offensive rebounding team in the league after some of our games, but I guess that's not the case.
No, and Etienne was really really soft. I thought in this one. I thought Robbie kind of just took it to him in this one, which is a stark contrast to what happened to him in the GW game. I actually, was this you? Did you write this or did I write this?
Yeah, I kind of covered it already. I was about to tweet, is there actually a worse rebounding team in the conference
Yeah,
than SLU? Because that's kind of what it felt like. But Isaiah Swope went 2 of 10 from three, 2 of 11 overall for 6 points. You're not going to win many games with Jimerson and Swope going a combined 3 of 19 from outside. You're
no, you're
especially
not.
not going to win many games comfortably like this. But luckily, Robbie Avila really showed up in this game. 21 points, 8 of 16 from the field, 3 of 8 from three, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. He was really all over the place on offense, Zach.
Yeah, he was. But this game might have included his worst mistake of the year.
Yeah.
A wide open layup with the nearest defender in the 618. He just biffed it.
Yeah.
Uh, I think one of the biggest changes with Billiken basketball this season is kind of how, and of course, I wrote this before we watched that GW game because there were quite a few in that one just because we weren't getting as many easy shots. But just how few bunnies this team has missed this season. Even under Majerus, I remember people hemming and hawing about missed bunnies.
Oh yeah.
Make the easy buckets. And this one we don't really we don't see that a lot with this team, which is a nice change of pace. That's one of the one things that I don't think people talk about a lot. That is a really yeah, it makes things a little bit easier as a Billiken fan.
Yeah, the offense is designed to give them easy layups, and they are pretty good about taking advantage of it overall. Less so in the George Washington game, but for sure here. Kalu Anya, this was a funny game for him, Zach. He scored the first 9 points of the game for
Yeah.
SLU, which is not a good sign for your offense because no one else was scoring then. But he ended up with just one more field goal in the game, finishing with an 11 and 13 double-double. Kobe Johnson had 10 and 5. He was his usual kind of solid self. The bench, Zach, added just 5 points, three from Killian Brokoff and on an and one play, and then two from Warlick.
Yeah, Brokoff was a really nice baseline cut and a dish from Anya. Brokoff took the contact nicely from Etienne and scored the bucket. Let out a primal yell bumping into the LaSalle big man, who he wanted a technical, Pete.
Did he? Was he? That's
Oh
what he was
yeah,
asking?
yeah. I mean, he was looking for it. I wouldn't have been surprised if the ref had called it, but like to me, it seemed like Killian, started walking and didn't ever really change his path.
Yeah.
And it just kind of looked like Etienne walked in the way of him. So, but I mean, again, I probably that's probably why I wasn't called, but I could have totally seen that go against us.
Yeah, I think it was right not to
No, of
call it,
course.
but nothing would surprise me.
Um, Kalu Anya was this the game or was it GW where I think it was this game where he scored the first like 4 points, but like gave up the first 4 points as well. Like it was his
Oh
man
yeah.
and you're just
Yeah.
like, for Christ's sake.
Yes.
Yeah, he frustrates me. I know, like he had the 11 and 13, the double double, but like again, I'm not as impressed with others with his rebounding.
Yeah.
For his size, I don't know.
So we let's get back to the bench in this game, Zach,
Yes,
because we thought we'd see more of them, right? When it
we
started
did.
to get out of the hand, we didn't end up seeing them. What Shirt said was the thought was if this stays at 20 with 4 minutes to go, I'm going to sub those guys. But turnover, turnover, turnover. You can't rest those guys. Robbie, Gibson, Swope. It's hard. Our bench guys, it's just a tough one, right? Like so he basically said, had they maintained the lead, he could have gone to his bench, but they didn't, so he didn't. You disagree with the
I
strategy.
mean, I don't know if you say, oh, because like you're putting it on like turnover, turnover, turnover. That's your starters getting those or giving up those turnovers. It's not like you had your bench in and they lost it for you. I don't
Right.
know. It seems like you're blaming your starters for why your bench can't play, which
Yeah.
seems wild when
It,
it's
it,
not.
it,
It's wild unless the bench is just tearing up the other team, or I
right.
mean, the starters are tearing up the other team. Like I don't know. I just find that odd, but you know,
Yeah, I
people
know
have
what you're
said I'm
saying. It's like
crazy.
I can't keep them in because they're playing too badly.
Yes, or I
Or
can't I can't
sorry, I
take
can't
them
take
out
them
because
out
they're playing
because
too
they're playing
badly.
too badly. Right, right, right. So
Um,
so SLU ended up with 18 turnovers in the game. Way too many. Just way too many. LaSalle seemed hell-bent on keeping pace with the Billikens in this category, whether SLU wanted them to or not. But really, SLU's defense kept them in this game, Zach. It started around the point in the first half when things started to turn around. I think it was that 11-minute timeout that Shirts said. I was thinking it was the 8 to 10 minutes left, but I guess it was that 11-minute timeout. They were down 21 to 13, I think, and that was the first spark, according to them in post-game interviews. And then that just carried until late in the second half. LaSalle, that 20 missed field goal stretch, I think it was 12-ish minutes of game time, according to you, between late second half and mid second, where
it
they didn't
was
really score there.
it was
So
bad.
yeah,
Um, Yeah, it was their lowest shooting percentages of the season. Also, their lowest point total in the season.
Yeah.
The Shirts praised the team, the Billikens. Bad offense didn't bleed into the defense, and they kept competing at both ends. The biggest question, Pete, did SLU's defense dominate LaSalle, or is LaSalle just garbage?
I think it's both, but I think SLU's defense deserves a lot of credit here.
Yeah.
Like it didn't. You talked about how they're soft, or Etienne's soft, ETN, however you pronounce it, is soft. I think they were. They had some athleticism. They've got some good players. I like Fran Dunphy as a coach, but it just seemed very easy to kind of take them out of what they
Yeah.
wanted to do, right? Like you say here, you thought a lot of shots were hurried or
Yeah.
off balance.
Off one foot.
Yep.
Like there was a lot of those. It just felt like they were running past the stop to shoot. Does that make sense? They
Yeah.
were they weren't they were rushing to, I don't know how to put it. But basically like you felt like they weren't shooting at the right time. They were shooting too early in the motion of that. And now
Yep.
I'm not talking about in the possession. I'm talking about literally you're driving, take another step before you pull up. They were pulling up about a step too early or not stopping before they went up. So
Yeah.
it was yeah, I don't know. The rotations and defense were great, like I thought Shirt said. Um, you know, 3-point shooting, again, we closed out well, was just ugly shots. I think that goes with the ebbs and flows of 3-point shooting, right? I think I think 50% of the time you could say that the team defended well, and that was why the other team shot better or shot worse.
Yeah.
50% of the time you could say that the team defended poorly and got lucky that the other team couldn't make any shots. So it's really, sometimes it's hard to key in on whether 3-point defense was actually good or not.
Yeah, that's right. But they missed a lot of bunnies too. Like some of that's rim protection, speeding them up. You ask, is LaSalle bad at basketball? I don't know. I think they're a mid-tier A10 team at best.
Yeah.
Um, they did have a similar poor shooting performance from three against Fairleigh Dickinson, 3 of 18. We mentioned earlier the lowest 2-point percentage of the season. Their next worst was that previous game against UMass. So maybe a bit of a trend here forming, but then again, they did come out and beat Rhode Island, as we'll discuss in a minute. Shirts said it's easier to course correct when you know your identity. He said this team is finally starting to develop an identity at both ends, but they've got to tighten things up, especially taking care of the
It was
ball.
looking majorly loose
Yeah,
against GW.
yeah, yeah, I think so. And I wonder how much of that identity is just lost on the road or whatever.
Yeah.
He hated the last 5 minutes. He said there's no way this game should have gotten within 10 points.
I also hated the last 5 minutes, Pete. Fran Dunphy did not help. He extended a game that was over with ridiculous timeouts. I thought the officials affected the spread in this one. There was at least one possession where LaSalle was actively trying to foul the Billikens,
Yeah,
and they just didn't feel like calling it for whatever reason. I guess it's
right.
fine, but get the game over. Like I'm all for it, but you know, possession ends up in a turnover. I don't know. I thought like one of the guys was calling way too many fouls out of position. Not that they were wrong or right. I just thought he made way too many calls. And I thought the female ref didn't really get involved at all for whatever reason. Like,
She did not want to call many fouls or anything in this game. Yeah. No, I was mostly fine with
yeah,
them letting stuff go. It was really only in the last 5 minutes where things were kind of like, all right, guys, you've had a pretty easy night. Let's just let's call this right, from this point on. But look, it wasn't pretty. It was a win.
yeah, we'll
Uh
take it.
we'll take it.
Speaking of not pretty, I just want to attack again. Never mind. I mean, I guess the officiating, one more thing is that like they just didn't feel, they were bad calls. Stuff didn't really affect the game, but like it just didn't feel like they weren't there to work. They didn't really control the game. I don't know.
It was one of
Um,
those things where they just weren't sharp, and in a close game, it would have been a problem.
yes, it would have. Next up for the Billikens, speaking of close games, I really hope both of these next two are close. I am entirely worried about these two games for historical purposes and for recent performance purposes.
Yeah,
What should scare Billiken fans here? Talk about it.
I mean, it's the defense and rebounding against VCU. We know what they do, right?
Yeah,
They're aggressive. Defensively, they crash the offensive glass. These are just two things that do not bode well for us. Since the last time we met, when they beat us up pretty good at the Siegel Center, they've beaten St. Joe's, Rhode Island, and St. Bonaventure. They moved to 6-1 in league play, 6 straight wins after losing on a buzzer beater at St. Bonaventure to start the league. So they're sitting atop the standings, tied, I think, with George Mason. Look, I'm just happy to be playing this game in St. Louis and not at VCU, Zach, because I don't want to go back there. But do you want me to do Dayton before you come off of mute or what?
thank you. Again, well, they'll still get home cooking here, so
Yeah.
it'll be fine for
Yeah,
them.
they probably will. They probably will.
Yeah, let's
But
talk about Dayton, man. I hate Dayton. I hate Dayton so much.
I do too. And this one on Friday the 31st will be our first meeting of the season. What a strange season the Flyers have had. Coming into conference play, 3 losses, all against ranked teams, and then they had beaten 2 other ranked teams. So they were by far the highest rated A10 season coming into the league. But then they opened the A10 season with a win over LaSalle at home and lost 3 in a row to George Washington, UMass, and George Mason, completely turning their season over. They're getting back in the win column. They've got consecutive wins over Loyola, Duquesne, St. Joe's. They'll face Bonaventure before coming to St. Louis. So the big question is like, were they overperforming in non-conference, or are they kind of getting things back on track after a couple bad weeks? I don't know yet. Nate Santos is leading the team in scoring, 14.6 points a game as a stretch forward. Enoch Cheeks is next at 13.1
Is
points.
that name child abuse? Enoch
Um,
Cheeks.
it's just a very old-timey name. Like if
No,
I
I
saw
mean
that
I'm
name, I'd be
talking
like,
about
he
like
played
say it out
baseball
loud.
in 1897.
Say it out loud. Enoch Cheeks.
But yeah, I don't think you say Enoch though.
Yeah,
It's
you
like
do.
Enoch.
No, it's Enoch.
All right,
Have
what
you not? But
I
like, it's way too close
I
to
get what you're
heat.
saying.
It's way too close.
I get what you're saying, but like, whatever. Um,
I think somebody
I-
needs to take Mally Smith out for another round of a couple 5 to 10 rounds of beer pong.
so
Maybe
yeah,
smacking a girl's ass or two.
yeah.
To baby got back. I think
Un
absolutely.
Unbelievable video, but yeah. So he's 13.1 points a game. He actually leads them in rebounding, even though he's not really like a big man, with 6.5 a game. Those two and Javon Bennett, who scores just under 10 points a game, all shoot over 40% from three, so that's a problem. Mal Smith does average 11 points, but leads the league with 6 assists per game. Zed Key is their polarizing big
I,
man. He averages just over 10 points a game.
I need to we need to talk about Latang.
All right, talk
He's
about him.
their starter, man. He hits threes. He's a stretch. He's stretch five. He's very Robbie Avila-esque in the way he plays, and
And
not
I
he's more of a straight stretch five hub. He's
yes.
not Robbie Avila in that, like, he doesn't have the passing ability of Avila, but I think he's got a little better athleticism. Kind of like a Pakar Brokoff on steroids.
Yeah, and the fact that he's 7'1", right, is kind of a problem.
Yes.
Um, he is only a freshman, but he's really skilled. And I think Key hasn't quite been producing as much as they've wanted. So he's
No,
been
Key
this
is
like
soft. Key
yeah,
is
so
terrible.
Key's under 4 rebounds a game, right? As like their starting bigs, or as the guy who they thought was going to be their big anchor down there,
Yeah.
coming from where was he? Ohio State, I want to say.
Yeah.
So anyway, so yeah, he's 6'11". Isaac Jackson is still there. He's 6'11". Or sorry, Latong is 7'1". Isaac Jack is 6'11", 250. He's like thicker than
He's done
Latong.
really well.
Yeah, so they do have some size to contend with, but they don't really have a Deron Holmes type.
No.
And I think that's kind of what they're missing. They play a relatively conservative style. They're not fast, lots of ball movement, solid three-point shooting, but they just don't have that reliable scorer down low to kind of give them that safety valve for their style.
Well, Tong has kind of become that too.
Well,
That's
yeah, I
where the
mean, but
turnaround, I think, has been. Turnaround's really been with the
yeah.
emergence of Latong as a member of the starting lineup.
I think that's fair. I'm probably looking at it too much as like the whole season and not kind
Yeah.
of where they are lately. And I think that's a big reason. You're right. You're absolutely right there. Yeah, even though he's looking to stretch it quite a bit. When I look at what they did to beat UConn and Marquette, it came down to rebounding and limiting mistakes. They have guards who really rebound their positions well. They also just don't turn it over much at all. They shot really well against UConn, but not against Marquette. So I don't think we're a team who's going to force a lot of turnovers out of them. So we just really have to rebound well. They accomplished way more than any other A10 team in non-conference play. The things they do well don't quite scare me as much as what VCU does well, but there are a few reasons why this is a tough matchup. And it's just Dayton, it
Yeah.
just means more. We gotta beat them.
It does. Make sure you're getting out there this week. VCU is the VCU game will be the mascot uh, night game. I don't know what they're advertising it as. And then of course the Billiken Blizzard.
Mhm.
You gotta brand your stuff, man. Like it's been the Billiken Blizzard for years. Yeah, get out, buy tickets, try to find free tickets. Dude, if your company has tickets, ask about them because apparently there are companies out there that just aren't going to games.
Mhm.
We talked about that on a previous episode. But this is a massive week. I think this is the hinge point in the Billiken season right here, Pete.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. I think this this week really is gonna determine what the rest of this year looks like. It really is.
Pete, around the A10, Tuesday the 21st. Uh, we got 4 games, the road team winning in each case. And each of these games felt like a statement win. And what a bizarre league this is.
It really is, Zach. VCU won at Rhode Island, 81-57. George Mason won at St. Bonaventure, 75-62. Dayton won at Duquesne, 82-62, in a game that might signal reversal of fortunes. And then St. Joe's, 78 at Davidson, who only scored 61. On Wednesday, the 22nd, UMass scored 74, George Washington 61. Kind of painful given the result that we had this weekend.
No shit.
Yeah, Loyola 70, Fordham 66. They both desperately needed a win there. On Friday the 24th, Dayton beat St. Joe's 77-72. VCU beat Bonaventure 75-61. LaSalle on Saturday the 25th, LaSalle beat Rhode Island 70-64, and Davidson beat Richmond in the Country Club battle 72-66. Lastly, Sunday the 26th, Fordham 65, Duquesne 63. Fordham gets off the schneid, gets their first conference win of the season, and disaster of a week for Duquesne, who was a one-loss team coming into this week.
Yeah, they were for real, remember?
They were for real, I heard.
I love it. I just love that, like, this league, without fail, will a team will win like 2 or 3 games. They'll be the darling of the league.
Mhm.
And then they lose to a bottom 3 team. It's unbelievable. Like clockwork, happens every time.
Yep. Yeah, no,
Let's
no one can just have kind of like a clean
no.
season.
I mean, it's not even like I can understand if you win like 3 games in a row and then you lose to like I don't know a Georgia like a top half team on the road. It's never that. It's never that. They'll beat like a top half team on the road and
Right,
then they'll lose at home to like Richmond or Fordham or Rhode Island. It's insane.
right.
Speaking of Richmond, Rhode Island, and Fordham, they bring up the rear of the conference. Fordham's in last place at 1-6. Richmond 2-5. Rhode Island 3-5, along with Bonaventure, with rumblings that Mark Schmidt may be looking to retire after this season. LaSalle and St. Joe's 3-4, along with two other teams in Davidson and George Washington. So that is now where the log jam is at. 3-3 Loyola Chicago just above them, and then three teams at 4-3: Dayton, Duquesne, UMass. The Billikens, the lone 5-2 team with VCU and George Mason at 6-1. I'm still not convinced that George Mason is a real 6-1. We will see how that goes. They also just get a cake-ass schedule. Like there are teams that just like we see it in soccer a lot. Like that George Mason team that went up against the Billikens in the semifinal of the tournament or the quarterfinal of the A10 tournament. Just a bad team.
Right.
But they were in first place, so they were like the 1 seed or whatever. Pete, our survivor picks, we are still alive. Are we alive? Like, can we win the whole thing or no?
I can still. I think you had one loss, so you are in the second place bracket.
So do I get if I make it, like, do I win anything, or is that just the
yeah,
winner?
you do. If you have a chance to come out of the second place bracket.
So we should just what we should do then is just win the main and the second.
Correct. That's the goal. That's the goal.
Well, so really what happened is I lost on purpose. So that we could
post the double win.
Yes, we got to sweep the standings, and the only way to sweep the standings is to lose one time. To go backward, to go 2 steps forward, you have to go 1 step back.
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
I think so. Yeah, so run us down the picks.
So last week you had SLU over Richmond on the 18th, and that was a win. I had SLU over LaSalle on the 22nd. That was a win. And then this week you had VCU over St. Bonaventure on the 24th and got it. I have George Mason over Loyola on the 29th.
So I might switch that.
I guess I do have time, but
no, go with your gut.
I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with it. Even though Loyola won this week, I'm still gonna. I still like it.
Pete, give us some recruiting updates. Sounds like we put a lot of offers out there.
3 new offers a week ago. Mason McGee was the first one. 2026 recruit. These are all 2026, so current juniors. 6'1" point guard out of Basha High School in Chandler, Arizona. Plays AAU for Compton Magic, which is an Adidas program. Really skilled, complete point guard. He scores on 3 levels, but he's an elite playmaker and defender. He's a top 150 player, according to at least 3 ranking services. The other offers he's got right now: Seton Hall, Iowa, Mississippi State, Cal, Arizona State, West Virginia, Nevada, UNLV, Fresno State, San Jose State, Washington State, Grand Canyon, New Mexico State, Louisiana, Marist, and Northern Arizona. So as you can see, he's very sought after. Ethan Harris is another offer that we put out. He's a 6'8" small forward from Camas, Washington, which is across the river from Portland, Oregon. Plays his AAU for Select Basketball, which is a Puma Pro 16 program. Fun fact, his high school team nickname is the Papermakers. I guess it's a mill town out there, but he really fills up a stat sheet. Excellent shooter.
Camas, Washington.
There you go. Okay. Excellent shooter, but also a rebounder, passer, shot blocker, really heady player. And when you watch his highlights, you easily see how he fits into this program. So I like this offer a lot. Other offers right now: Portland, Weber State, Montana, Montana State, Idaho, Portland State, Seattle. His older sister plays at Montana State. She's a freshman there. So safe to say the Big Sky is all over him, but we are probably his strongest offer so far. The third offer to go out in the past week was Anthony Brown, a 6'1" point guard from Archbishop Carroll High School in DC. He plays AAU ball for Team Takeover, which is a really strong Nike EYBL program. He's a score-first point guard. He puts up big numbers against strong competition. They play a really tough schedule out there. Super quick trigger on his shot, deep range, just as effective off the dribble as the catch. He's comfortable slicing to the rim, finishes, draws fouls. He's a good all-around point guard, but scoring is really his forte. He's also a top 150 player per multiple services. but doesn't have as many offers right now as the other 6'1" point guard we offered, Mason McGee. Right now, he's got St. Joe's, George Mason, Richmond, Providence, Maryland, Mississippi State, Syracuse, Morehead State, Charleston, Old Dominion, and Norfolk State. So mostly East Coast right now, but definitely he's got a pretty high profile.
Um, you know what else needs to be higher profile? How good Two Men in the Gardens products are.
They really are, Zach. And this is one of those weeks where today at the grocery store, I realized I was getting low on 2 Men in a Garden and needed some backup salsa. And it's just not the same. There's just not as much good stuff out there. I've got a little bit left in the last jar from my last order, and I'm gonna savor that all week if I can do it. I don't know if I can though. So I've got to get back over to 2 Men in a Garden and make an order. While I'm on the subject of their website, they do have partner products, and I just used some more of that Fallout on some eggs today. So that was really nice. Put some of that on scrambled eggs, that seasoning. Really, really nice compliment there. 2minutegarden.com, $9.99 nationwide shipping. Go take advantage of that now. Get some salsa, but poke around, see what else they've got on there. I guarantee you'll find some stuff that you'll be happy with.
Women's basketball. Let's quickly recap last week before we get to this week's game, just to set the foundation. Of course, with Rockio joining the show last week, we went really long, and he's not exactly versed in the women's basketball goings on, so we decided to hold off. A 64-63 win against George Washington Wednesday the 15th. Peyton Kennedy out again. SLU got a very favorable home whistle in this one.
Yeah.
We're honest about officials here.
Yeah.
The Bills had a 15-point lead at halftime, let them all the way back in. GW looked like a tough matchup because of their rebounding ability. SLU out rebounded them 38-35 overall. How, you ask? Till it went with a bigger lineup. Starting Tierra Simon and Nook Shavers. Shavers fouled out, but they held their own, combining for 13 and points and 15 rebounds. Also, Maya Glanton made her presence felt. Cut loose. She played 28 minutes, scored 17, grabbed 8 rebounds. This is going to get we're going to hear more about Maya Glanton, kind of how she produced it in Indiana State. The question asked is, why hasn't she gotten on the floor yet? A lot of people on Billikens.com will get in. We'll talk about that. Team shot 2 of 15 from 3, both a low attempt number and percentage. They won the glass game, which is where it seemed most unlikely. So you just take this win and move on. After that, Pete, real quick, 66-63 loss against Loyola.
Yeah, on Saturday the 18th. This one was just, it didn't have to be this way, Zach.
Nope.
SLU led by 1 heading into the final quarter. Peyton Kennedy was back. She had 12. Brooklyn Gray had 23 off the bench. It was a really close game. 12 lead changes, basically a coin flip of a game. The difference is that SLU went 3 of 17 from 3, and Loyola was 11 of 21 from outside. So Loyola's top two scorers went 8 of 13 from 3. If you solve for that, you take this game. It's really as simple as that. But let's move on to this week's game, Zach. And it started with an 87-76 loss at Dayton on Wednesday, the 22nd. Dayton's a really good defensive team, but I don't think that was the issue here. SLU went 3 of 18 from 3 and 17 of 67 overall from the field. Some of that's on the defense, but a lot of it was just poor shot selection. Too many off balance shots, rush shots, not making the extra pass. The best offense they have is probably just drawing fouls, right? Like they go 19 of 20 from the line in this game. But man, the shooting was just brutal.
Yeah, they did out rebound the Flowers. Yeah, the Flowers by 9. Turnovers were even. A lot of the things you worry about against a good defensive team on the road, they weren't actually the problem. It was the shooting, which, I mean, who could have seen that coming the way things were trending? Calhoun, 13, 7, and 5, only 1 turnover, but fouled out. Gray showed up finally. We hadn't seen much of her lately. She seemed to be having a tough time. 16 and 5. Kennedy, 15 and 5, and hitting all 3 of SLU's 3-pointers. let's see. Tierra Simon 12-7. SLU struggled with Ariana Smith, who finished with 23-11. This seems like a step in the right direction, Pete. Although, again, uh, I think this seems like a little bit of progress.
The issue I have is that it's where we are in the season, right? If
Yeah.
this is a non-conference game against a good team, I may have looked at some of this and seen progress, but like SLU just could not make shots when this game got close. They'd
Hmm.
make a defensive stop or two and just kept bricking on the other end. So that's the issue I have with it. It's Dayton, it's a rival game, it was a beatable team. It's just weird, like you tell me like, okay, SLU can't hit anything lately. Dayton's a really good defensive team, not a very good offensive team. And it winds up being an 87-76 game. So there's just kind of there's some defensive problems there in addition to the poor shooting. And I think I was getting ready to put some of those defensive issues on blast
Oh,
until this last.
we were ready to go off.
Yeah, I think we've got to table that conversation for a week though,
It's
Zach.
tabled.
Yeah, because
I'm completely yeah, like I think we were ready to basically talk about um again, I think every year around this time, and then this team gives us a Lee Corso. Not so fast, my friend. I hope this is a turnaround, but I don't know yet. I'm not willing to buy in just yet.
I was on a plane when this game happened, so I don't have a perfect perspective, but I get off or I got home and looked at the score finally, and it was 60-51 was the win at Davidson on Sunday the 26th. Zach, this is the Davidson team that beat the Billikens 94-53 a couple weeks ago at Shea Fitz in the most
Crazy.
demoralizing game I've ever watched. The Wildcats also entered this game coming off a loss at George Mason. So I was worried they're going to go home, get that bounce back win.
Yeah.
And instead, SLU holds them to the fewest points they've allowed all season. And how did they do it? Somehow their terrible, terrible defense wasn't there. They were awesome defensively.
Yeah, this was when I checked the halftime score, and it was like 26-22, and I was like, okay, that's not correct. That's A, too low, and B, flipped. But
Right.
no, I was again. Yeah. How did they do it here, Pete? Five held the Wildcats to 5 in the second quarter, 8 in the third quarter. 13 in one quarter is good defense. Holding them to 13 across 2 quarters is impressive considering that they scored 94 on you last game. And
Yeah.
maybe this is just the law of averages coming back around.
I guess so, but watching Davidson just carve SLU apart in that last game, I thought like there's no way that they could. They went 11 minutes during that stretch in the second and third quarters, spanning each quarter, right? 11-minute scoreless stretch, just incredible, and they could do anything they wanted against SLU last time we played them. This win, they managed to pull this win out despite shooting 2 of 12 from three. And I'll circle back to that point in a minute. They got called for 8 more fouls than Davidson, and they turned it over 18 times. But the rebounding was there, right? 36 for SLU, 29 for Davidson. Davidson couldn't get anything going inside. 16 made field goals in the entire game, 10 of 31 for two, 6 of 19 from three. Without getting to the line and going 13 of 16, this could have been a real blowout the other direction. Remember, Zach, last time that Davidson could not miss from three, right? Like, so they didn't necessarily beat us inside in a half court offense. They got some stuff in transition, but that was when they hit like what, their first 8 threes or
Yeah, it
something
was
like that.
ridiculous.
Yeah. So that was that game. And now they couldn't do anything against SLU.
No, they couldn't. They couldn't get anything inside either. Um, 16 made field goals the entire game, 10 of 31 from two, 6 of 19 from three. Um, just insane. Maya Glanton, baby.
There she is, leading
Where
SLU off the
is
bench.
she? there was talk on the social medias, the interwebs, that maybe Tillett isn't necessarily great at knowing what she has on her roster.
I don't know what it is because it seems very obvious to me that someone who is the leading scorer for her team at a Valley school could translate into significant minutes at the very least for your team. So the fact that she's just kind of been buried all season until the last couple weeks, I was just like, wasn't she scored like 13 points a game. She got like 7 rebounds a game. What are we
Yeah.
doing? And here you cut her loose, as she's been the sixth, player in, and she's 18 and 10 in this game, 9 of 9 from the field. So she's just like getting easy shots at the basket all day long here,
9 of
grabbing
9 from
rebounds.
2 is insane in women's basketball.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like
Nobody,
layup
you
after
don't,
layup.
yeah, you don't shoot 100% from 2-point range in women's basketball, especially if you're a big. Like you can shoot, mid range. It's a little bit like the the difference between men and women's basketball is that like the closer you get to the rim, the actually gets tougher to score. I think anyway.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so it's so impressive to see somebody go 100%, especially as a post player.
I think they were smart to go big in this game too, right? She started Simon and Gray and Shavers, to go with Kennedy Calhoun and Peyton Kennedy, right?
Maybe that's just our identity.
So
Is
so
just
she
roll big.
she went with a bigger lineup, and it made sense. I think against when you saw that Davidson team last time, they have some size, but they want to play on the perimeter, right? They don't want to play inside. So she was just going to bang it inside. Glanton was the first one off the bench. So, Sean and Wallace and Bergstrom, this wasn't really their game, right? Like they just wanted to go big, and that was definitely the way to go here. She went big, taking the risk that Davidson wouldn't be as hot as they were last time, and that was absolutely the right call. So like I said, I was on a plane when this game was happening. I don't really know what to make of it, Zach. I was so prepared for another blowout here, planning to discuss some historically bad defensive metrics this season. But like we said, we'll table that discussion for another week or two, and we'll see if this game was a fluke or if something's really changed. One last point I want to make is the 3-point shooting has been really, really bad lately. They're now under 25% for the season, and they're allowing 39.3% from opponents, which
Yeah, that's not good.
that's among the worst in all of college basketball. And to do that while you're making so few threes is troubling. They've made, under 20% from three in each of their last 4 games, and in 5 of their last 6 games. They haven't made more than 6 threes in a game since the Ohio game on December 15th. They've only made double-digit threes twice this season. Cal Baptist and Ohio. Just, they weren't great 3-point shooting in November and December, but it's really, really fallen off as they got into late December and then into this calendar year. So I don't know what's going on, but man, oh man, the 3-point shooting has dried up.
Yeah. Let's see. Women's soccer, Pete. The Billikens have a new associate head coach. She's from St. Louis. She attended Lafayette High School for those that care about that sort of thing. Megan Link was named associate head coach. She comes to SLU from Michigan State. She served 4 years in as assistant. Katie Shields said she's considered one of the best goalkeeping coaches in the country. In addition to goalkeeping, she oversaw set pieces and Midwest recruiting at MSU. Pete, that is something where this team sorely lacked this season. So
Mhm.
I see why Shields was certainly looking to bring in someone with set piece pedigree. She's
Yeah.
also coached at lower division schools, Grand Valley State and Quincy and Southwest Baptist, where she played in college. She also has experience at the youth and high school levels, along with a stint for the U.S. Soccer Federation. One more thing before we move on. Um, uh, Former Billiken head coach Kat Mertz, who left right before Katie Shields took the job, was just hired as head women's soccer coach at UC Davis. She apparently was diagnosed with breast cancer,
Mm.
and I believe had a double mastectomy.
Oh, geez.
In I believe it was 2021 or 20, it's like 2023 maybe. Um, yeah, it was recent. It's post pandemic. Um, yeah, but anyway, she had coached at some lower division after leaving Oregon, I believe it was. Didn't she go to
Mhm.
Oregon or Washington or something? But anyway, yeah, just an update on her. Um, let's see. Swimming and diving, Pete. Not so great on this most recent game at UMSL.
Yeah, so on January 18th at Omaha, the women lost 207 to 91, but the men won 160.5 to 95.5 with Bray Sanchez and Ben Mears each winning two events. The men won nine events overall. At UMSL, the men won 107.98 and the women tied at 102.5. But they had senior day on January 25th against Maryville. The women and men both won big, both won 14 out of 15 events. The women's score was 205 to 38, and the men 221 and a half to 35 and a half. Next up for the swimming Billikens, A10 championships, February 19th to 22nd in Hampton, Virginia. So they got a few weeks to prepare
And those will be
for
on
that.
ESPN Plus.
They will.
Yes.
Yes.
Pete, you're a track and field. Yeah, I think you like breaking down track and field. I'll let you roll with it. I'll handle tennis because holy shit.
Yeah, I think as people know, I'm the runner out of us two,
Yes,
Zach.
you like
So
watching running. Apparently, I like running.
that's that's right. The Missouri Showdown was January 17th in Columbia. Sam Lamaze, am I saying his name right?
Lamaze.
It's just like Lamaze
Well,
class.
yeah,
Like
yeah, I
yeah,
got you.
that's how it's spelled. He broke the school record in the 400 meters with a time of 48.66, breaking Danny Hopkins' mark, and was named A10 Rookie of the Week last week in the process. Star Scott won the 800 meters with a time of 2:15.70, finishing just ahead of Sonia Marin, who came in at a time of 2:16.26. Emily Morden won the mile, crossing in 4:57.39. Journey Edmondson, double winner, finishing first in the long jump and the triple jump. And then Ethan Bryant won the 60-meter hurdles with a time of 8:50. Evan Brennerman won the triple jump, reaching 48 feet, 4.5 inches. Next up, they had the Crossroads of America Invitational at the Indiana State Fairgrounds on January 24th and 25th. Journey Amundsen broke her own school record in the triple jump with a mark of 41 feet, 11.25 inches. On the men's side, Brock Waugh had the second fastest time in school history in the 3,000 meter with a time of 8:10.2. So, good time for him. Next up, they've got the Mayo Invitational. That's this weekend at Notre Dame. Zach, tell us how we did on the tennis
Very
winter front.
badly. Pete, I gotta say, man, I don't. I'm the if these results continue to stack up, the more my kind of harebrained theory of this program being not being around at the end of this year
Mm,
seems to come to fruition. I just I don't know. Kind of seems like a I don't know.
wow.
I mean with everybody cutting sports, like SLU is what missing one. I mean they're one sport down. I think they're one sport or they're one sport above the limit. I mean it's off campus.
Yeah.
It's doesn't really. I mean I could see St. Louis tennis community was pissed when they got or St. Louis golf uh, community was pissed when they got rid of golf. But I mean
Hmm.
I just I don't know. They dropped all three of their matches. First year head coach James Tobin, now running the show. A 4-0 loss against Northern Illinois Friday the 17th at St. Clair Tennis Club in O'Fallon, Illinois. That would be a home match. Again, they're over in St. Clair, Illinois.
Right.
Um, the men 7-0 against Creighton on Saturday the 18th. That is not a surprise. What's kind of a surprise is a 4-1 loss Sunday the 19th against Drake, and I say unexpected is that one win. I assume that they would get waxed. Um,
Mhm.
Crazy play in this one in one of the doubles matches. This was obviously against former head coach Justin Stuckey. Riki Koshimizu was the lone winner.
Mhm.
But a crazy get in the doubles match. We posted it to Instagram. The ball was hit and it went over halfway into the court adjacent,
Yeah.
and the Billikens hit a lob and it went in, and they got the point. Doesn't really do much, but it made it went slightly viral, at least in tennis communities, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. That was an amazing shot.
Uh, go. I don't think it's where we put it as shared, but you can probably find it. I don't know. It doesn't
We'll,
matter.
we'll we'll find it and try and share it.
Yes. That's gonna do it for us. Pete, any last words? I have no idea. I am so scared for this week. It's not even funny.
Yeah, I don't know, Zach. I mean, all I can say is that come to these games. We need
Yeah.
butts and seats. I don't care how you get in, whose tickets you're using. If you know somebody with tickets, you're not sure they're gonna go, make them go or take their tickets. I mean, like,
Call me for a back way into Chaffetz,
fill these games.
a
Please
secret
fill these
back way
games.
in.
Yes. Yeah,
Just kidding. I
just
don't
fill
actually
this
know
arena.
anyway. Yeah, I think it's mascot. And then the Blizzard t-shirts are the Lou on the front, which is nice.
Hmm.
Which I thought it was only going to be Nike stuff, so that's surprising. I was told that it was only Nike branded would be the Lou. I think that's the Nike font. Like I think Nike owns that design.
Oh, really?
I
I
think they
didn't.
have to. I mean, it's the same as the Cardinals jersey, which again, I completely didn't even realize that's how much I've been paying attention to the Cardinals. Yeah, that's gonna do it. Whether yeah, as always, go Bills.
Go Bills.